Hey, what's up, fellow patrons? Michael Damiani here to give you a little bit more of an update on the D files. After seeing some of the feedback from the first update, I realized I kind of made a mistake in assuming everyone, one, knew who I was, and more importantly, two, what I'd done before. So I'm going to give you an actual proper introduction this time. So as I said, my name's Michael Damiani. I used to work at Game Trailers. I worked with everyone who is at the Easy Allies team now when they were back at GT. I actually started in 2008, and I worked there until April of last year. So it's been a year since I technically worked for GT. So worked there for 7 years. So that was quite a long time. During my tenure there, aside from doing the reviews and event coverage, I helped create a show called Pop Fiction. A lot of people in the comments before, or not a lot, several people said, why am I not calling the show by its name, the previous show? I thought everyone knew. It wasn't, and I was trying to make this arbitrary goal of, can I not say the old show name and just talk about the new show and see if I could, whatever. It was kind of weird. So anyway, yeah, no, there's no stigma or anything like that. The show I worked on before was called Pop Fiction. But I'm making a new show, a successor to it, and it's called D Files. So if you want to go check out episodes of Pop Fiction to see kind of what I did before, that's what you can kind of expect from this new show. That's probably the simplest and easiest way to put it for those curious about what this new show is going to be like. Also, why it's taking a little bit more time to make, because it's not just me sitting in front of a camera like this and talking to you about a game, mystery, or myth. There's gameplay footage, there's research we have to do to actually write the stuff. We need to track down people to talk with them so we can get quotes from people. That takes time as well. Also, tracking down other materials like secondary sources such as guides, art books, magazines that have the quote or an interview from so and so. And then trying to get quotes from publishers and getting them on, to do an interview or record themselves on, Skype or iPhone or something just to send a video clip in. So it takes a little bit of time to produce them. Otherwise, you get an incomplete episode. So that's the one thing I wanted to talk about this time, is that I might be a little bit more open this time to having episodes which aren't necessarily I don't want to say the word not complete, but they're a little more open-ended in the fact that there might be a part two, and that I guess it's trying to liken it to a serial arc where a mystery might go over multiple episodes because we're trying to track down stuff. So if we ever feel, or at least I feel, that we're not going to hit that monthly goal, I would consider maybe just putting what we have out there, and putting out there and just being honest. It's gonna, the D Files, the theme I mentioned last time is, it's kind of like a detective series, like a PI, gumshoe, investigator. So, the case may go cold, and we have to go back and reopen the cold case or something like that, or to be continued. I don't know how I honestly feel about that, but it was something that just popped in my head that could be a solution. A lot of you did seem to react very well to the proposal that addendums will be separate individual videos rather than going back and updating the entire video. So that was the message there was pretty much clear, that you preferred that instead of having to go through sometimes a 10-15 minute video just to find that 1 minute 30-second or 1 minute update that had the brand new information. So definitely going to go forward with that. And that was kind of the impetus for, should I maybe consider, if it feels normal, wrapping up an episode where it's at if it's taking more, it feels like it take more than a month, and come back to it later, either the next month or down the line when we get some of the answers we need or track down some of the stuff, and then finish it then. Sort of like a cliffhanger with an ending. So I don't know about that. That's something I've been mulling over, so that's not decided yet. That's one thing. It definitely won't be the first episode, obviously. But there's one possibility here that we can do differently. That would be slightly different than Pop Fiction. And again, the other biggest thing is, I didn't want to limit this to just video game myths. So many times, I forget if I mentioned this in the last update, but even if you didn't, if I did, and this is your first time seeing an update, one of the things that I got frustrated with and stumped me was, how do we cover subjects that aren't necessarily a myth that we could test out? And I keep mentioning the Star Fox episode. That wasn't necessarily a myth. It was just kind of an urban legend. Fans thought hey, maybe James McCloud from Star Fox was actually James McCloud in F-Zero or something. So, I mean, who knows? So I always like saw that mentioned a little bit as a kid. I always kind of like had like that theory. So I wanted to present that. There might be odd, random questions like, "Can you do this in a game?" or something a little bit more simple, but it has an easy test. It might not be like a huge myth or a story behind it, but simple. Can you even do? Is this even possible? So and so told me, like the gossip part of it. There's a lot of gossip in gaming or hearsay that doesn't necessarily become a myth, especially nowadays. Very few things get to the quote-unquote myth status just because the prevalence of information, how easy it is to communicate with a community and track down this stuff, and people just comb through the game's code now. They crack it wide open. They go through all the assets and source material and just look through it and like, no, there's nothing in here, so we know for sure, or we know not for sure, one way or the other. So sometimes for newer stuff, it has to be more of like something that this keeps persisting. So it's kind of like this nagging piece of like gossip, is like I like to call it. That, hey, did you hear you can do this and that? And you hear you can do this and that? And I'm like, I don't know if you can. Let's find out. So yeah, I guess it's trying to say there's gonna be a wider range of stuff that's gonna be covered in this, because I want to do what I find interesting. I don't want to have to. So one of the criticisms that was always leveraged against pop fiction is everyone worried that there weren't enough myths to sustain the show. There were a lot of myths we didn't get to. Like the first episode is going to be one of the myths that we didn't get to, that was going to be like the next episode of pop fiction, but now it's going to be the first episode of D-Files. So there are plenty of those. It's just I'm not always sure how interesting they're going to be when you do the research and dig into them. And sometimes when looking into that stuff, I see other subject matters come up, and I'm like, these might make a more interesting video, I guess was the thought behind it. And I always wanted to do that, but I was worried that if I did it within the structure of pop fiction, people would be like, this doesn't make sense. Because there are several times, not too often, but enough times where we did things differently that people didn't react so well. They like, once the formula is established, they don't really like it being tampered with. Kind of like video games, your favorite series, when they try and change things too much, kind of got a taste of that firsthand. So I'm referring to including live action stuff, like when Mega 64 was awesome enough to shoot stuff for me and put it in the video, and we tried to make it work, and our side of the audience, the pop fiction game trailer side, hated it, but their Mega 64 fans loved it. I loved it because I was a fan of Mega 64, but our fans was like, nope, get that crap out of there. And I was like, it's not crap, this is pretty funny, but on me that they didn't really mesh too well. That was kind of forcing it. So that one was on me, and really sorry to Mega 64. I highly doubt any of them would ever watch this video, and that was pretty funny what they did. I'm just glad they got to reuse it as their own standalone video, and we got to put out a version of that episode for Pokemon and put that out without that in there as well. Made both sides happy, but from an artistic and creator standpoint, I'm sure that probably irked them. They're usually not the types that give in to that type of stuff. Whereas I see this more of a community thing. So I not always gonna do what people tell me to do, but when the community's right, I can tell no bullshit. They're right. So why fight that? You gotta kind of embrace it, and that's why I think one of the reasons why the show was so well received. So anyway, so structure changes once we're settled. I don't want to mess with that, but I want to give myself from the start an opportunity to cover wider subject matters and have it work within this in the structure of the show. So that's going to be one of the goals going forward. And then the last thing I want to mention, because I kind of hinted at it a little bit by talking about updating videos, going back and doing addendums, because some of you didn't know who I was and didn't know what pop fiction was until maybe now. I think it's definitely gonna be. I'm gonna be open to the possibility of going back into subject matters that were covered in pop fiction and bringing them into the D-Files structure. So two things for that. One, that's not going to be a crutch that I kind of lean on a lot. and I want there to be a pretty good impetus for, or a reason to reopen, those episodes, such as new information comes out. The best example I can give is, like, pretty recently, someone got Brad Buxter to talk about Michael Jackson's involvement with Sonic 3. That was pretty much the only thread we weren't able to get their perspective on because they refused to talk to us at the time. I guess they were open to talking to somebody else. So, including that information would have been a very good reason to go back and revisit Michael Jackson. Thing is, this show is not part of the pop fiction world, so it would be presented as if it was brand new. And again, not everyone has seen pop fiction, not everyone is aware of this, and that's the thing I was always constantly fighting against, was trying to have all this information in one place and readily available so that the dissemination of the truth would be easier and that would actually take place. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and as younger fans or newer fans come into gaming, they might never have heard this series or previous people's work on the subject matter. It's always good every now and then to revisit that stuff, to bring it back into the forefront of people's minds and discussion, and also kind of part of the celebration of gaming, and like gaming myths are part of the culture. So every now and then, not always, there will be an opportunity to go back and redo some of those in the new style. I just want to make that aware so that if, like, a few months from now you see a subject that comes up that we already did, I promise there will be at least something new within it, or presented in a different way that is not just literally like copy paste. Like, that is not what I want to do. But at the same time, because I now own this show, this is like my show, I kind of want to make that stuff again, that it's within my control, so that, who knows, like, I know people backed up pop fiction and stuff, but like, what happens if the switch flips one day and it's all gone off, like, from, YouTube and game trailers, the site goes away. Like, I have no control over that. I can't re-upload those episodes, technically, without, fighting a legal battle, which I really don't feel like fighting right now, or getting into that. So, why not just make my own show and cover those? Then I don't have to worry about them, and I can do whatever I want with them and put them up wherever I want. So, I don't know if that sounds selfish, but at the same time, like, I'm always worried that that stuff will go away, and I don't want someone else to have control over that and ultimately determine the fate of that stuff. This time, have the chance that it's mine. I will determine the fate of it from now until the end of time, unless for whatever reason I give up those, rights or whatever. I feel good about that. So, anyway, that was all kind of wrapped into the, like, kind of like, the container of revisiting old stuff from the previous show, Pop Fiction. So again, leave me your questions and feedback. Some of you guys had some good feedback. I know, like, some people asked about the name. Like, I get some people know, like, it is supposed to be a rip on the X-Files. Like, that's supposed to be pretty obvious. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the X-Files. I just like the name and, like, the tone and kind of, like, that thing. I know I keep saying, like, Gumshoe Investigator, but it's also, like, the stuff's, like, kind of ridiculous. I mean, I remember there was one time when, like, James Rolfe, like, even told me, like, the Cheetahman stuff. He's like, I've done this shit to death, dude. Like, the fact that you're even going further than I'm going, like, does people really care about this? Are you insane? It's like, the Mega Man 9 stuff, like, yes, like, I find this interesting. And everyone told me, like, nope, not enough people find this interesting, but apparently enough of you do like this type of stuff. So, you can label it whatever you want, but this is, I find this enjoyable. So, that's why I keep doing it. So anyway, I'm going on, like, way too long here. Yeah, like, let me know your feedback, your questions. I'll answer questions. Hopefully the audio is better. I just use my headset this time. Like, screw the Logitech mic on the webcam. Like, the acoustics, a lot of us are in our apartments. The acoustics are trash. So that won't work until we get a studio, hopefully someday, or at least a nice place to record. So I do apologize for, like, the setting. Again, this is just like my apartment as well. And I'll try and do another week update. There was supposed to be some information, before I forget. I know it's going on a little long. Before I forget, Brandon alluded to in Cup of Jones about, like, a partnership thing. Still waiting to hear back on that. But before Easy Allies approached me to join them again, someone else approached me about trying to bring back Pop Fiction. And I am trying to make that partnership work and incorporate it with Easy Allies as well, because I think the exposure and the partnership there would be really good for everyone. But nothing's finalized, so I don't want to like mention names or anything yet, obviously, until we know about it. If it doesn't happen, like maybe I'll say what was the plan, but at the same time, I don't want to spoil the surprise if it does happen, and we want to do something a little special for it. So that's kind of where that sits now. But to reassure Patreons, no matter what we do, if we do something like that, with like a sponsorship or partnership with someone, not sponsorship, sorry, partnership, not sponsorship, nothing to do with sponsorship. Patreon, or sorry, patrons. I keep getting Patreon and patrons. I'm doing it. Patron, you're a patron. Holy crap, the Patreon thing just screws me up. Anyway, people who have supported Easy Allies and are a patron will still be able to see it first, no matter what, on Easy Allies Patreon page. So no matter what happens with it, you will see it first on there. That is a guarantee. So that's something to look forward to. And hopefully this gets worked out. So maybe next time when I do my next update, I can share that exciting information with you, because I'm pretty excited if it happens. If not, it's still going to be good. So it was a cool opportunity that I would like to see come through, because doing stuff by yourself, you can do a good job, but like working with other people usually is like the best way to make like a better, show or whatever you're trying to work on. So again, I've rambled on way too long here. A lot of you say you like that. You like when I talk more or go into these weird, as you call them, Damiani moments, and I hate referring to myself in the third person because it's incredibly scary, weird. And I do ums and likes, and I try and avoid those as much as possible. But thank you for your support. Hopefully we'll have another video update maybe next week. I really want to wait until we either have something to show from the graphics, which are also being worked on. That deal got finalized, so hopefully by next update I'll have something to show from that, and I'll have something to say on a potential partnership with somebody else for the show, and anything else they have to go. Like any of the questions or feedback you see, like if anything seems important enough to address in the update, I'll answer them here. But I also answer them on the page as well. So thank you again for your support, and I will see you next time with the next update.